Hey all, and welcome to another review. Once again, thank you to Audio Sanctuary in New Malden, London for lending me their display unit for review. And this time, I like to dip my toes back into the planar magnetic pool of headphones after spending most of the past year bouncing between dynamic driver headphones. So in this case, I'll be talking about the once $3,000 Hifiman flagship, the HE1000. So this has been replaced by the version 2 since, and more recently by the Suswara, which is double the price at $6,000. But anyways, today I'm setting a new channel tradition of reviewing out of production headphones, especially by Hifiman. The last one was the HE500 last year. So I'm kind of on the fence about the HE1000 using veneer in its cups. I get that it keeps things lighter and more manageable, especially because it isn't prone to cracking, but it still lacks a certain premium look that you'd expect for headphones in this price range. The build itself feels kind of sturdy. The frame is made of stainless steel and seems durable enough. The air cup size is absolutely huge and provides the most space I've encountered in a headphone to date. The combination of the strap and the air pad shape makes this a really comfortable headphone. You don't even really feel the 480 grams of weight. So the Hifiman HE1000 version 1 uses those same 2.5mm connectors that Hifiman abandoned their old SMC connectors for. I first saw these on the HE400i, and while these aren't my favorite connectors in the world, they aren't annoying unless you catch your cable and stuff quite often, which you pretty much shouldn't. Alright, so this is probably the first time I reviewed a planar magnetic headphone where the overall presentation was a blatant alternative to my dynamic driver headphones. The bass on this reminds me of the HE500 because it isn't hiked in the mid-bass region, but it is rather linear and well extended. It's also very clean and full sounding when the music calls for it, and it doesn't bleed into the mids. I think bass heads might find this a bit too light though, along with lacking slam and impact. I find it fine for overall listening, but while impact might be on the softer side, it does retain good speed and decay. The lower mid-range isn't recessed or elevated. The bass transition is kind of flat and lacks any bleed, which is pretty well done because this is something that can make or break some headphones to me. Rock, metal, and vocal music are some of the genres I really like listening to on these, as the mids are smooth and well layered. The detail retrieval, however, is not entirely lacking, but it's a bit muted compared to many headphones at this price range, and especially a lot lower if you consider the Sennheiser HD800 series. Instead, the midrange has some remarkable body that shows itself with both male and female vocals. This is also a very forgiving headphone. Bad productions, poor masterings, and shrill and harsh recordings are all kind of covered in this blanket that is the HE1000's presentation. Now, this may seem cool to you, or you might think this is kind of incompatible with the idea of high fidelity audio. I personally don't mind it so much, but this is a good reason why this would not be my only headphone. Staging is decently wide and has a good depth to it, and a really tall sound too, which is probably related to the size of the cups and the drivers. It has a certain larger than life sound to it at times. Now, the treble is a bit of a mixed bag on the HE1000. I don't really get string texture and air that I find, kind of important when listening to orchestral music. I also don't get the bite of a saxophone in jazz music, so both these examples are a bit smoothed out and muted in their ability to sound truly lifelike. I also can't shake the feeling that the treble is a bit tizzy at points, and I don't mean that it's sibilant or painful, but it does sound a bit thin and artificially hard at times. I'll chalk this up to the driver having a slightly dry and brittle presentation in this area, and it honestly isn't much of a deal breaker for me, but a definite downgrade from my dynamic driver headphones. So about amping. So the HE1000's ability to scale was quite a bit less than I expected. Using my most detailed tube pairings didn't do much for it on my Dragon Inspire IHA1 amplifier. In fact, I kind of found it to perform similarly in the detail department on the Audio GD NFB28 using my shit Yggdrasil as a source. So most importantly, the bass performance on the NFB28 proved to me this headphone really does require some juice to sound like it should in the lows. And while it doesn't suck out of my tube amplifier, the Audio GD fleshed out its bass performance and presence, making it sound both fuller and more nimble. So yeah, this isn't a particularly sensitive headphone and it definitely needs an amplifier, and for once I'd recommend a solid state with decent output over a tube amplifier. So let's just get this out of the way. The HE1000 does not nearly match the Utopia in detail retrieval, dynamics, resolution, soundstage depth, timbre, or impactfulness. The Focal flagship also plays better with tubes for further scaling and is a headphone that is both revealing of source gear and source material. There isn't a situation, honestly, where I'd pick the HE1000 over the Utopia if I could only own one of these two. But that being said, I think some others might feel differently, because the Utopia can be too harsh at times for some, and is really stubborn with its pushing of detail and dynamics, which can definitely be fatiguing to some and make them call the Focal overly dramatic. It's also brighter than the HE1000 and lacks its forgiving nature, and it can skewer eardrums on poorly mastered and recorded music. So the HE1000 by comparison is a smoother experience. It's lacking in many ways in this head-to-head, but it still has some merit due to its unique sound signature. So to sum it up, it's really hard to hate on the disadvantages of the HE1000 version 1. Yeah, it falls into a similar trap that many planar magnetic headphones do, with the slightly artificial sound in the treble, but it really is one of the least fatiguing and most tonally rich headphones that I've heard to date. Now, while I wouldn't pick this as my only headphone personally, I can easily see it as a nice complement to my Focal Utopia. Its softer sound is sometimes needed, and its forgiving nature is sometimes appreciated. It's a musical headphone, and even with its flaws, I can't feel especially critical towards it, as it's a very cohesive listening experience, and I'd honestly recommend anyone to try it. So that's been my review. Thank you for watching, and thank you for 3,000 subscribers, and I'm looking forward to reviewing some neat gear incoming in the future, including the Focal Claire, hopefully sooner rather than later. So till next time, cheers.